morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. No matter where you are, welcome to MagnifEssence in Motion. My name is David McLeod. I am your life mastery coach, and today, this is episode number 31 of this program, and our topic title today is Letting Go, Leaning In. Now, I don't know how you folks feel about it, but the journey toward personal excellence is often misunderstood as an act of sheer force. Yet true leadership and true ownership of our lives requires the counterintuitive discipline of surrender. Now, when I talk about surrender, I'm not talking about giving in or throwing in the towel. Rather, I'm talking about releasing our desperate grip on outcomes we can't control, on expectations that, we have tied to our minds and so forth. And this release tends to allow us to align with a higher purpose. And so for this episode, I'm going to be joined by my beautiful friend and colleague, Nancy Stevens. She's a certified personal leadership, career, and life coach who brings her wisdom and insights about letting go and leaning in. And you know what? Nancy, come on camera. I want you to say hello because I want to share a piece of information with these folks.
Hi there.
Yeah. You and I were just reminiscing that about over 8 years ago, we started this program called Soul Empowerment. Not this program, but a different program that is, it's in a related area. And I was just sharing with Nancy. Nancy was with me for about 2 years on that program, and it was really awesome to be able to do those episodes together. Actually, I think it was longer than that, Nancy, wasn't it? It was maybe 3 years.
It was 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah. And so now, Nancy decided to move on and do her own thing, but the program is still going on. We did episode 75 or 76 this month.
Wow.
And so we've been going. We're into our 8th year now. And I mean, that's really fantastic. We just keep doing our work to try and bring forth new ideas, new messages, new processes, and so forth to help people live their very best lives. And this program, MagnifEssence in Motion, is no different. All right. So today I want to dive in and we'll talk about this idea of letting go and leaning in. Again, thank you so much for being here, Nancy. I always enjoy having conversations with you. So welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. And we've been connected quite some time with our show and through the Wellness Universe and personally. So it's an honor. I always learn from you. You are a master. So it's awesome.
Well, I don't know about that, but thank you for the compliment and the blessing. I do appreciate it. And I think, so here's something that you and I have shared before. Whenever I find myself honoring somebody else as a master, for example, there's a part of me internally that is a master and is projecting that aspect of myself onto the other person. And one of the beauties of this life and the work that I do in particular is helping people to learn the power of their projection. Because sometimes we'll say things about another person and not even think about what that means about ourselves, right? Most often this is associated with negative things like judgments and so forth. I have a negative judgment about you, and it's an opportunity for me to notice any part of myself, for example, that I have chosen to hide, repress, or deny. But the same is true about the beautiful things that we see in other people. Sometimes they're just reflecting back to us what's really in ourselves. So, I'm not trying to deflect your blessing. I'm simply trying to have us all remember that whenever we see something out there, it's because we have it in here. How's the saying go? You spot it, you got it.
Spot it, you got it. Name it, claim it.
There you go. That's the second part of it. So, and I think that actually ties in a little bit with our topic today, this idea of letting go. Now, I know that you found this to be a very important topic. So tell me a little bit about why this is so important to you.
Well, the theme of letting go and leaning in, it really is something that I think began many years ago in my life. Obviously, I didn't know it at the time, but we always get little nudges and pushes, and maybe we trip and fall. Maybe we start to see. But this theme has really been front and center to me most recently about letting go of what I don't know, lean into my wisdom. It's always been there. So I just can't think of a better time than to really unpack this. It's just something that I'm really practicing every day with my morning routine. I was just a co-author. I'm a co-author in a book that hasn't come out yet, and my topic was letting go. I feel that especially as we are in the world in these times now, we're really asking for us to look within versus take who we think we need to be or are from external. And there's a lot with unpacking letting go. It's a life process as I'm learning. But once we begin to notice and bring that in, then a different way of being covers us. And that's important.
Right. All right. Well, now you dangled a little carrot in front of us. You got to tell us a little bit about this book that you're participating in. What's that? Tell us. Come on.
All right. So the book has not been released yet, but I'm a co-author in a book called Brave Families, and it's a collection of stories from 25 authors, myself included, sharing our own experience in wisdom from what it looks like to be in a family, whether it's a caregiver, parent, mother, son, daughter, foster, adopted. And so what came up for me, which I'm not surprised, was the theme of letting go, of how to navigate, become the parent of an adult, changing how that relationship has changed, but sometimes we stay stuck in the past and aren't able to move forward. So I kind of I explored my journey of where I was and how I became to where I am now and still becoming in this chapter, and gave my story, and then I provided a tool that would help move the reader forward. So
yeah, beautiful. So you mentioned Brave Families. Is that the title of the book, or is that one of the series, or what? I presume this is done by Brave Healer Productions, Laura DeFranco.
Yes, it's Brave Healer Productions. It's the book. The title is Brave Families, and I'm really terrible with names, so I'm sure there's something else to it. Maybe I think it's Brave Families: Stories of Resilience and Trust, but it's a Brave Families. It is the title of the book.
Okay, and
then
it sounds like something might become a series of books.
It could very well. I know. Yeah, if you think about that, Brave Families, it could be. Yeah, it could go on. But yeah,
Well, good for you. Congratulations. I've experienced your writing before. You and I have co-authored a couple of books with the Wellness Universe, and it's been awesome. Doing the writing, and God, I love writing, and trying to get new stuff out is always a challenge, but it's a worthwhile challenge, I find.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we wouldn't be here having a conversation today if we weren't one that wanted to share either through the written or spoken word. So, yeah.
And it's interesting. I honestly, I've been thinking about this a lot. We spend so much time and energy in our lives focusing on how to make more money, how to get more things, how to, build up the symbols of success in our lives. And really, when it comes right down to it, none of that is very important. Sure, you want to have all your physical needs met. You want to have proper shelter and all the rest of that kind of stuff. And you don't want to have to worry about where your next meal's coming from or any of that. But really, I have found, I don't know about you, but in my life, I have found that all of my needs have been met. I've never had to go out and beg for anything. I've never had to, I've never been starving or really hungry for that matter. I've always had a roof over my head, even if it was just a tent. But I've always found that even when I thought things were the darkest, often the universe just provided. And, I think when I started realizing that, I think what happened was I went through my own process of letting go.
Yeah.
Because I realized okay, money's nice and it can do lots of good things, but truthfully, in my current situation, I don't need a lot of money, you know? I think the only reason I would want more money is so that I can do more of this kind of stuff and get it out to more people. That would be really the only reason. Have you experienced that yourself?
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. I mean, I think that really, maybe that was the start. Like, what, what do I need? How is this going to unpack? Maybe it started with maybe initially having that external bit of uncertainty, or, then grasping like, oh, I need to get this. But then it was like, wait a minute. If I really look back on my life, is it true that everything I didn't have trust on actually happened? Worst case scenario, did all of that happen? And yeah, the answer is no. No, it didn't. I'm like, okay, what do I need to do with that? Well, maybe I need to go sit and process. What was my story around what I thought was going to happen or didn't have, that I allowed to unknowingly, maybe allowed to play out? And how about let go and just see what's meant to be? I think that is similar but different than yours, is letting go in order to see and be in the truer, bigger picture, which
I like
is
that.
Which is where that trust comes in, letting go, even though we have no clue. That's hard because we all want to know. I mean, I do. I want to know.
Right. Well, and it's interesting that you say that, letting go because I don't have a clue, or I'm not sure if I framed that correctly, but that's what I thought I heard. And but the real truth is you do have a clue. In fact, you got lots of clues. The universe is providing clues constantly. And the other thing that I would say is most people probably don't really understand this, or maybe they don't quite get where I'm coming from on this. But all knowledge, all truth, all wisdom, all understanding is available everywhere for everybody. There is no one who is restricted from having access to that, except by their own choice.
Yeah.
And that's not something I've believed for a long time. It's something that I have come to believe over the course of my life as a result of understanding the true nature of reality and versus the nature of the reality we think we live in, right? And so this, I hate to do this, but every time I have one of these conversations, it turns into one of these woo-woo things, and people start to wonder, okay, where's he coming from now? And well, the truth is, what I believe is we're all connected. We're all one. There is no disconnection anywhere. That is 100% illusion. And so if we're all connected, then we are all a part of the same energy, right? We're all part of the same consciousness. We're all part of the same allness, if you like. Well, that allness, that consciousness, that everything has to include all knowledge, because otherwise it wouldn't be allness. It would be something else. It would be somethingness, So I think it's really, really important for us to understand that connection, this idea of we are all one, is not just a bumper sticker. It's an actual fact of life. And because of that, we all have access to all truth, all knowledge, all wisdom, all everything. We all have access to it. So the question is, how do you let go? And we'll come back to the story. Let go of the illusion and let yourself just surrender into the truth of your connection to all it is. That's really what I think we're talking about here. That's what letting go and leaning in really means to me. How does that feel for you?
That's a tall drink of water. And that is hard. That's where the trust part is, letting go of my own story and moving into a vaster, bigger truer truth that connects me to everyone and everything, that I have the wisdom. I was, born with it. But it's gotten buried and covered up throughout life by events, situations, how I perceive things, stories that I've shared about my perceptions of what is and what isn't. And we walk around and thinking that we're letting go, but holding on to these illusions or stories and making them come to light. I think that's where I am, is like, okay. And now I catch myself. But if I say something like, oh, I don't have time to do that. Really? Is that really true? Or is there a truer truth? Or, boy, I wish this was, it's all our own. I think that's all tied into the power of self-trust and letting go, is being okay, I guess, being tethered to the oneness, that we are one, and being able to comfortably freaking let go of our stories, perceptions, illusion of what we think is. And then from there, that's where all the advice giving, opinions, divisiveness, ill will, all comes from wanting to be in control and have that, when we're really, I thought about that this morning. It's kind of interesting, depending on who and where you are, but I can feel really powerful in my own oneness. However, I'm really dependent. My power means nothing if I don't have air to breathe when I wake up, water to drink, gravity.
Well, that's really fascinating. Okay, so you've touched on several things here that I'd just like to highlight, okay? The first one, you mentioned you have this thought, I don't have time. Or another one that many people have quite frequently is, I can't afford it. They're basically the same thought. They're saying there's not enough of something in order for me to participate in what I want to do. We have this illusion of lack instead of recognizing the abundance. And the truth is, here's what's something truth for me. I used to say, I don't have time, or I can't do this because of blah, 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 or whatever. I've discovered over the course of years that there's always time. There's always time. And furthermore, to say I can't afford it is not really true. That might be my initial reaction. But I also know that if this is meant to be, if this thing is meant to be, then the universe will help me find a way to bring enough money and resources into play to make it happen. That's always been true for me. And the thing is, it's not that hard to step into that belief system. You just have to understand and recognize when you're having the thought in the first place. So I love that you were able to say, oh, is that true? Is that true? Perfect question. Because the moment you ask, is that true? Then you begin to look for answers that either make it true or make it not true, right? Now, the other thing that you mentioned, and I'd like to bring attention to this, I need air to breathe, I need water to drink, or whatever else you said. And I thought, yes, on a physical plane, in order to keep this body alive, in order to keep this body going, it requires air to breathe. It requires food. But I, the essence that happens to be occupying this body, have no such needs. And sooner or later, my essence is going to say, okay, I've had enough of this adventure, and it's going to just leave the body behind and move on to some other adventure. Whatever that might be, I have no clue. Well, I guess I do have a clue because, as I said, all clues are available to everybody. But anyway, my point is, sometimes we get caught up in the physical needs and we identify with our physicalness. Have you noticed that?
Oh, yeah.
And what would it be like to let go of that idea that I need air to breathe, I need water to drink, I need a bed to sleep in? What would it be like to just let go of that need?
That's a good one too. I guess So part of me that doesn't trust would be like, well, then I'll die. So,
Yeah. So, but what will die? What will die, and what does death really mean?
yeah, like, oh, my physical body will perish, but then you're right, my spirit soul will exit and move elsewhere.
Right.
Back to creator.
And so when you say I will die, you're not really referring to the real I, are you? You're referring to the body. And so I'm just pointing out that, and everybody does this, by the way. This is just,
Yeah.
everybody does this. Yeah, I'm going to die. No, you're not going to die. Your body's going to die. And you are not your body. It's something that people just cannot get their heads around, you know? And that's part of the big challenge, I think, of elevating your consciousness. I admit I've got an ego mind. My ego mind doesn't want to die. My ego mind is constantly saying, we got to do things to keep safe. We got to do things to keep, protected. So we got to avoid things that will cause problems. And we got to eat good foods and blah, 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 in order to keep this body alive, in order to keep the ego mind alive. Well, the ego mind will die because it is just an artifact of the physical realm.
Yeah.
Right. And sooner or later, when the physical body says that's enough, or when the spirit, soul, whatever you want to call it, the true essence of this Davidness says that's enough. The body is finished now. I'm moving on. That's it. The body's gone. The ego's gone. It's all gone. So in that sense, death does occur, right? Mm-hmm. But it's just a transition. And if we could accept that, then maybe letting go would be easier. Because I've heard people say, "Oh, I'm not afraid of death. I just don't want to die." Really? Okay. Tell me more about that. Well, I'm not afraid of death. I'm afraid of dying. That's really what they're saying. The process of moving into that thing that we call death is what people are afraid of. So anyway, I'm sorry, I'm ranting. I'm going to shut up now. You talk for a while.
That's fascinating. I love that our conversations always have their own flow with whatever we're sharing. But yeah, and so maybe that is all connected to having a semblance of trust in what we don't know, but yet knowing at the same point that the wisdom of our body is, or our essence is always there. Like it's never, it was ours to come back to. I guess for my journey, the wisdom of what I'm meant to do in this life, and how I process, it was always with me. I unconsciously, through a series of stories, walked forward looking for external to provide that, looking for a word or someone or something to inform me, versus going deep within to look for that information, trusting, right? Trusting that, okay, I don't have a clear line in the sand, but what I need to know is there. Right. I just gotta unpack it a little bit, or know that the things that I'm concerned or worried or name are just my ego wanting to protect me, my story that I've carefully curated, about, like I said, not having enough money, time, resources, credentials. All of that is just talk. It's just chatter.
That's right. Yeah. I don't know about you, but have you ever noticed that no matter how much of anything that you have, it's never enough. It's never enough. The ego mind always says, "Oh, I can't." You could be a millionaire living in a beautiful house and whatever, and somebody could offer you an opportunity to do something, and you could immediately go into that place. I can't afford it. Yep. Or you could be a guy in a, living in a cardboard box, and he gets the same offer and he says, I can't afford it. There's really no difference between these two people other than their external circumstances, but because they both have the same mindset. That's the thing. And it's the mindset that has to change, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, we talk about the ego mind, and I like to distinguish the ego mind from the mind, because the mind itself is kind of neutral. The mind is kind of like the bridge between the physical and the spiritual, right? But the ego mind, that the ego kind of is that part of ourselves that builds its own identity and then hijacks the mind for its own use.
Oh, I love that.
That's kind of what, yeah, it's like the mind is kind of like the ship that steers us through this physical universe, and the spirit is a spiritual entity that helps to guide us, right? Well, when the ego is involved, it says, hey, I'm gonna take over this ship. It's a mutiny. He's no longer letting the proper captain run the ship, if you like. Takes over, figures out a way to toss the captain into the brig, and then runs the show from there. It's a pirate scene. That's what happens, right? And most of us, we live our lives that way. We allow our ego minds to run the show.
Oh,
and we don't even realize it.
No, we don't.
I certainly didn't realize it.
No, I didn't either. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think, yeah, if you look back on my younger years, like I just took things at face value initially, because I guess that piece of tapping into your inner wisdom had not yet revealed it. I mean, it was there, but I hadn't opened my eyes to let it be revealed. So I had these series of stories that I took as being the absolute truth.
Right.
I'm this way because I was born like this, and this is this. And I wouldn't even think to step outside of my lane. I was so into that story I created that it was the absolute truth. You know, I don't have enough. I don't know enough. I'm not enough. Oh, okay. Well, then I'll just do this. When, you know, somebody had said something to me like, really, is that really true? Or what, you know, what gives you, what about that makes you feel safe and comfortable? And I'm like, well, nothing, you know.
These are great questions. Somebody had the foresight to ask you some great questions. I love it. That's awesome. Yeah. That's the start of waking up, right?
Yeah. Having somebody cut through you and just say, really, tell me more about that.
Yeah.
And then hearing yourself speak, oh, wisdom starts to come up. Like, maybe, yeah, guess what? There's more than one way to see that.
It's beautiful.
You know, my analogy is you line up 10 people, you give them the supposed same experience. Each one of those 10 people is going to have a different story about what occurred. Some it's going to be the best thing ever, some in the middle of the road, some it's the worst thing ever, but they all have the same thing. What was there was their stories.
Right. Right. And not only that, but because these 10 people that you lined up all came from different backgrounds and different, I mean, even if you tried to find 10 people that had exactly the same family upbringing and all the rest, they'd still be different. Because, you know, you think about your brothers and sisters. I assume you have brothers and sisters. Is that right?
Yeah. I have a sister.
I have one of each. And I realize that we lived in the same family, but they had the different experience than I did because we were 3 years apart. Well, my brother and I were 3 years apart. Myself and my sister are 11 years apart. So that's almost a generational difference, you know, half a generation.
Yeah.
It's very different. So even though we're brought up in the same family and our parents had pretty much the same values across, you know, the three children, the fact of the matter is all three of us had different experiences.
I think that's fascinating. Like I see that play out in families.
Yeah.
With siblings, some, yeah. And again, their perception of the story they've told them based on birth order how things come into them is, yeah, that's another, I mean, ooh, that's another matter there. I think, I guess looking back, unpacking this whole issue of letting go and trust is that it's something far greater than me. Again, it's me and you releasing, letting go, admitting that we don't know. But as we admit we don't know, we're, in a way, we're returning back into the wisdom.
Right.
Right. That's the part where now I can more easily, I'm not saying it happens just but when I say I don't know, it doesn't mean, like you said, the door is closed, locked. It's an opportunity for me to explore what it is I think I don't know. And from there, move into that level of trust that everything that needs to happen,
Yeah, that's beautiful. So yeah, so we've been talking a lot about story here.
Yeah.
And story is just another word. We can put many different words on this. But as a result of my story, I have different perspectives on things. I have different belief systems. I have different biases. I have different filters than other people who maybe went through similar things. And so those biases, filters, perspectives, all those things impact the way I approach my life. And part of letting go is, first of all, you have to recognize that you've got it. That's the first thing. Awareness is always the first step.
Always with everything. Yeah.
Right. So once you recognize, oh, right, that's my confirmation bias kicking in right now, or whatever the truth might be. What's the real truth? If you can say, okay, I recognize that I've got this bias. I recognize that I've got this filter. I recognize that I've got this preconceived perspective about something. The moment I can do that is the moment I can begin to see the truth for what it is, rather than for what I think it is, rather than for the story I'm making up about it. Right?
Yep.
And so, you've mentioned a whole bunch of things over the course of this conversation that I think are really, really important. But in relation to story, I'm not enough. I don't have enough. I can't do this. I don't know. Those are stories in our minds based on, they're knee-jerk reactions. That's what they are. Even when I say I don't know, the real truth is not that I don't know. The real truth is that the information I need at the moment isn't right here in front of me. I have to go and find it.
Yeah.
That's really what I mean when I say I don't know. Or when I say I can't, what I'm really saying is one of two things. I don't want to, or I don't know how. That's really what I'm saying. Well, guess what? If I don't want to, okay, don't do it. But be honest about it. But if I don't know how, now you've got some options. Well, if I don't know how, well, I can figure out how. How do I do that? Well, we've got this thing called internet these days. It's pretty easy to find things and figure out how to do stuff, right? But not even just the internet. You could just go and ask a friend, hey, I know you did this. How did you go about it? Oh, I see. Now it makes sense. So now I can. You see, and that's how we shift things. We first have to recognize that we're making up the story. And by the way, we're constantly making up stories. Every single moment in our physical waking lives, we're making up stories. That ego mind is going to be on duty for the rest of your life.
24/7.
That's right. That's right. So go ahead, have your story, and then stop yourself and say, okay, what's the story I'm making up right now?
Yeah.
Just stop yourself no matter what you're doing. What story am I listening to in my head right now?
Yeah.
You'll be amazed at what you learn.
That's the powerful. I think that was, for me, that was something I did have some guidance on, because I was so far in the weeds. I wasn't even, it didn't even occur to me. I didn't know that what I had labeled as truth was simply my own perception of a story that my ego gave me to make me supposedly be safe, be protected when, it was stopping me in my tracks. So when I began to, have others speak into my life about things that I just assumed were true or black and white, oh no, where's that come from? If you could prove that into a court of law, is that really true? No. So once I was made aware through help and support of others that what I thought were truths were not, I began to be aware of a pattern that when something occurred, I would immediately go into my story or just whatever, how the day was going to be. I would go into this story about, for instance, it's cold and rainy. Well, I'm going to have a crap, my day's not going to be good now because whatever. Make a story about money, the weather, the news, current events, just all of that. And like, oh, okay, I'm letting that story determine how I'm going to show up. That's not good. That's not cool. Why, okay. So then recognizing, what do I need right now that I'm letting my story inform me. Oh, I need to feel heard or safe, protected, cared for. So this old story that you're not enough, or now the weather ruined your day, or you don't have enough money, you're using that as a mask unknowingly to cover up a need or a want. That might be needing, I need to acknowledge myself, tell myself I love myself, share my love, share love to somebody else. So the story, again, is the wisdom informing us of what's next.
That's beautiful. I like that. Yeah. So what we're talking about here is pretty much everything is story. And you always have the opportunity to pause, ask yourself, what's the story that I'm engaged in right now? Take a couple of steps past and say, is that story true? Does it serve me? Does it not serve me? Or better yet, rather than asking, does it serve me? Ask, how does this story serve me? What is it trying to do for me?
Yeah.
Because your ego mind is going to continue doing this stuff. You might as well get to know your ego mind and make friends with it. Yeah. That's the way I look at it. I don't believe in this idea of trying to kill the ego, silence the ego, get rid of the ego, or any of that stuff. That makes no sense to me, because it's not going away. At least as long as you're alive in this physical form, you're going to have an ego. So get used to it. Find a way to befriend it. And this is what I do in my mind. I like this so much because the idea is stop. What's the story I'm engaged in? What is the story trying to do for me? How is it serving me? And then deal with the ego, because the ego is the one telling the story. Talk to the ego. Say, thank you so much for bringing this to my attention. What's this all about, really?
Yeah.
And have a conversation with your ego mind. You never know where it's going to go, but try to ask open-ended question. What's really going on here? This story keeps coming up, so it must be important to you. Tell me about it. Tell me why it's so important. And before you know it, you're having a conversation with a part of yourself that's been there probably since the day you were born, but maybe shortly after that, and that has been trying to keep you safe. And what kind of being tries to keep you safe? Someone who cares about you. Whoa, never thought of that, right? So you care about me enough that you want to keep me safe. And I really want to thank you for that. I really appreciate that you're looking out for my needs and my safety and all the rest of it, And I really want you to keep doing that. But I want you to remember, I'm an adult now. I have adult powers. I have the capability of handling this. And so I will make sure that I listen to you, and I will decide what's right for us in this moment in our time. When you do that, the ego mind quiets on its own. It doesn't have to be silenced. It's like having a conversation with a little child.
Yeah.
Really. And when you treat that little child as just a loving being, all of a sudden your relationship with your ego changes, and your ability to connect in with your soul becomes easier. That's what I've noticed. So really all we're trying to do here is we're trying to release what no longer serves us and allow ourselves to reconnect to our true spiritual essence and follow what does serve us.
Yeah. And what you've just been sharing is, from all of that is where self-trust and trust land.
Exactly right.
As we are able to notice with self-awareness, I seem to be having a repeating loop pattern that life isn't fair, I never win, da da da. Okay, what does that mean? So having the presence of mind and curiosity and with compassion to say, why do I keep having these same events? Why do I keep telling myself all of this? It's not, life isn't fair, this always happens. And then what is this, what am I meant to learn, right? What is this here to, how is this serving me? How have I used this? It's not fair, nothing good happens. How has that helped me? Haha. Okay, what does that really mean? So being able to pause and go into your wisdom, that can be a hard step for those that are like me. We're living externally for so long to say, what do you talk? What? It's like, felt very inauthentic and just uncomfortable. However, learning to do that process and taking the time to being patient, not a one and done, then all of this wisdom was able to come out for me to see, wasn't trying to hurt me or set me back. And I guess in that moment of acknowledging a bigger truth that came up, that's where trust is. That's what it is. It's just, even through the uncertainty or the not having that tangible roadmap in front of you, was where that blossoming of letting go into trust. Like I shared in my story about letting go of all my old story that I had to navigate, supervise, manage, delegate, be the voice of authority all these years. I was working to continue doing that, but it kept me safe. How did it serve me? Oh, it made me feel, important. I mattered. But what was the truer story? Oh, it's time to, they're adults. What are you doing? How is that going to move things forward? And it was a coming, a recognition with that,
Right.
with that piece of wisdom and truth. But that is, I think, what I really wanted to share. What you described was, that's where trust comes from.
Right. I do agree with you. The moment you can begin to recognize that there's something going on in your life that may not serve you, the moment you can recognize that and just simply ask the question, well, what's this all about?
Mm-hmm.
I agree. You begin at that moment to break down a barrier that's been there for a long time.
Yeah.
And begin to open that barrier up and see what's really there. And when you see what's really there, you shine a light on it, you look at it and come at it from a place of love and curiosity, as opposed to criticism or,
Yeah.
criticism's not going to help at all.
No.
But if you can come at it from a place of curiosity, I wonder what this is about. I'm curious to know how I got into this habit in the first place. Come at it with that childlike sense of adventure and curiosity and look at it and say, wow, look at that. I had this idea in my head, that, and whatever that truth is. And because I had that idea, I did this. And as you say, the moment you start doing that, you begin to trust that inner wisdom. You begin to see that, wow, I really do have the answers. Wow, I really do. I really can come up with explanations for this, and I don't need an external source of information for it. It's all right here.
Yeah.
And so as you begin to trust yourself, guess what happens? Now, that's going to start to expand. It just naturally happens. You're going to start to expand. You might run into more, barriers that you need to examine, and that's probably going to be good too. But eventually you're going to reach enough, you're going to break through enough of these barriers that you're going to start to trust yourself enough that you begin to trust other people.
Yeah.
You recognize, I see now. Bob has been going through the same thing in his life. He's got all kinds of stories going on, and so he's living this way. Well, I'm just going to offer my love to Bob and just send that out there and say, here's my wish that Bob really gets to know and experience the truth of who he really is. That's, you can't do more than that. You can't tell him how to fix it, but you can offer your love to him so that he can find his own way to fix it, whatever fix means.
Yeah, whatever that means. But yeah, so basically that was the other important foundation is as we work on through self-awareness, being led, leading, as we work on our own inner self and come to trust our wisdom, then that just naturally follows out of us into trusting something that is not ours, not needing to try to fix it, rescue it, change it, carry that emotional load, because we are that much more comfortable, clear with who we are, that we automatically just exude that to others and it's up to them to do their own work. In other words, we're not like, oh my gosh, you're making a mess. This isn't going to work. You need to, all the stuff that we love to throw onto other people. Maybe they're mirroring when we are of that, they're mirroring, okay, you still have some work to do. So as we land within ourselves, that just flows out of us and we don't get so concerned or taken up with other people. Our trust gives a gift of trust to them that they'll figure it out too. Even if supposedly it's not what we would do or whatever, like it just naturally, it stops that second line. Like our ego is calm enough to be able to say, hey, you don't need to take on their stuff. Because that's another big ego, right? Major part.
Of course. Yeah, trust is a big deal. And trust is kind of an element that's associated with safety and which of course both are associated with fear. And what is fear really but some idea that I'm disconnected from love? That's really all it is. If you think about it, if you can stay connected to love, even in the moment when your ego mind's going nuts and you're hearing all these stories and and you feel your body clenching, if you could stay connected to love somehow, that will kind of be like a salve that protects you from the effects of this fear. It's really quite an amazing thing, and it's not necessarily easy to do. It's something that requires some practice. I mean, can you feel fear and love simultaneously? Well, you can have the experience of fear while still staying connected to love. I'll say that, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing with anger. Can you feel both love and anger at the same time? They seem like contradictory energies on the outside, but let's face it, you're only getting angry because you care about something. So what is the energy that's driving that care? Right? I don't know. I think it's quite possible to be lovingly angry about something. I call it fierce love myself, but other people have different names for it.
Yeah. I like all of that. Yeah, I'm wrapped up in the energy of trust right now. Okay, how can we, I think that perhaps a large part of some of the societal things, it comes down to being conditioned or not being aware of that we have to be in control, and that's where trust comes from. If I trust that I'm in control, that I'm going to make sure all these things happen, tethering with that uncertainty and fear, trust triangle. But really, ultimately, I think what's come forth from you in our conversation is as we lean into our own sense of self-trust, understanding that every day is a different journey. It's not like this is not a one and done, right? My quote trust will be tested today, I'm sure, because I'm going to lean back into one of my stories. But then I get to lean out and be like, okay, nope, I'm gathered in the energy of trust. I don't know the outcome. I can't control the outcome. That's not what this is about. It's deep, deep, deep. But then it feathers into so much of, like you said, our physical body, our ego, which is part of that. That is very interesting, the whole befriending our ego, right?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a powerful, not just the ego, but those dark parts of yourself that you've hidden, repressed, denied, and cast into the background. You've got to befriend those parts because they're coming out sideways, no matter whether you like it or not. And they generally come out in the form of ego story, if you like. That's how the shadow kind of manifests itself through the ego. And this is where that's why I call it the ego mind, for that reason. But I wanted to say something else. This idea of control, I think I've come to the conclusion that control is a complete illusion. There's no such thing as control. You can't control anything. You can't even control your own thoughts. Let's get down to the truth here. Those thoughts are going to come, and they're going to come constantly. Yeah. I'm not even convinced, honestly, I'm not even convinced that my thoughts are really my own. Many of these thoughts seem to come from somewhere else and come into my consciousness, and I become aware of them. And what I can control, I suppose, is how much or how little I decide to engage with those thoughts, right? But I can't do that even unless I am aware. So awareness is the first and the foremost. Once you have awareness, then it becomes easier to do things like, accepting things as they are. And once you accept things as they are, that is by peeling away all your story about it, then you can see it for what it is. And now you have the option to make a choice about how you want to deal with it, right? So on this, there's a second one that you have control over is how you choose. What choice are you going to make? But once you make the choice, you have no control over what happens next.
No.
Because you put energy into motion in the universe. It's kind of one of my favorite metaphors for this is the moment I make a choice, it's like throwing a rock. Bam. I'm throwing a rock into the pond. The moment that rock leaves my hand, I no longer have control. That rock is going to do whatever it's going to do. It'll land in the pond. It'll make whatever ripples it's going to make. It may inadvertently hit someone on the head on its way to the pond. So that hitting someone on the head is an unanticipated consequence of my choice, right? I didn't plan to hit someone in the head, but I hit someone in the head and I may have caused some damage. So now what am I going to do? Well, I can't unthrow the rock. Sorry. What I have to do now is I have to make a new choice. That's the best I can do. So you see, even the idea of changing your mind is not possible. The best you can do is the moment I have a thought in my head, then that's like making a choice, right? The moment I do something with that thought, I'm making a choice. I'm creating an impact in the universe. That impact will do whatever it's going to do. My only alternative after that is to take responsibility for the impact and then decide what I want to do to repair any damage or to, whatever. You see?
Mm-hmm.
So I have those two options, those two methods of control. But really, that's about where it ends. Anything else is complete illusion. Sure, I might be some kind of a dictatorial boss and I say, you do this. You are my little minion and you will do exactly what I tell you to do. And maybe you'll get that kind of result for a while, but it ain't going to work for long. I'll tell you that. People don't like being treated like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So control Try not, don't, give up the idea of having control and recognize that the best you can do is influence things through your thoughts, your choices, and all the rest of it. And ultimately, the universe is going to take care of the rest.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I very, very, very clear. Once we make that choice, or we will let go in the energy of trust, then it's out of our, once we've made that choice, spoken that word, thought that thought, taken that action, then it's now out of our control. And trying to go back, wait a minute, no, then you're right, a new choice, a new event, a new scenario results from that,
Right.
whatever that is.
Yeah, and this is not to make anybody wrong, by the way. You know, we're all going to make choices that have unintended, possibly negative consequences. Everybody's going to do that. That's just going to happen.
Yeah.
But if we are responsible adults, if we have a high level of integrity, we will recognize that, oh, I see, that choice had that impact. And now I have the option to make amends. We all have those capabilities. The question is, will we do it? Or will we say, oh, I'm just a victim of bad luck? You know, it wasn't my fault.
Yep, I've heard that one. Yeah.
Yeah, well, okay, forget about the word fault. Throw that word out of your vocabulary and start looking instead at accountability. I made this choice. This choice had this consequence. This consequence affected you. I see that ultimately my choice caused that to happen to you. I'm taking responsibility for that. I'm taking accountability for it. I could have done something, this and that and the other thing, to be more aware of that possible consequence. I didn't do that. So I'm going to put that into place for my next choice. If I cause damage or harm to somebody, of course I will apologize, but the apology is meaningless in the absence of some kind of accountability. So first, I have to take responsibility and acknowledge that it was my choice that resulted in this outcome. Then I can say, you know, Nancy, I'm really sorry that happened. I certainly didn't intend for that to be the case with you. I apologize. I want to find a way to make amends with you. And at the same time, I want to recognize that maybe my shadow had a part to play in this.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, that touches people much more deeply than, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. That clearly does. Wow, there's lots of beautiful unpacking today here into the power of the energy of letting go, leaning in. From there, how does trust come in? What does that look like? What is, that we really never have? We really are not in control. We can use our awareness, though, to choose the context of what we say, what we do, our stories. If we're doing that with that loving compassion, wanting to learn and grow versus living externally. So maybe that's another big one, is how can we grow and learn? Well, we have to retreat and go inward in order to show up differently outward. Once we are able to take on the life lessons that have been given us from the universe, which it takes some people a lifetime. Maybe they'll get it in the next life. Some of us, like me, little bits. I now know that my job here, one of them was to unpack things meant for me to explore and share, to not just hold everything in at face value, to be able to expand my capacity, and you're one of the people.
And what we're talking about here, I think, well, what I believe you're talking about is going within, connecting in with my deepest essence, my higher truth, my higher consciousness, and bringing that forward in my life and sharing from that place of maximum alignment with my true nature. Does that resonate for you?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yep, it does. Yeah. Yep. I'm taking all of this in right now. Like I said, I came here to share and to learn. It just kind of, I think once we start to play around with what is trust, what does it look like, where is this, that all kinds of things will open up to us that have always been there. For
Right.
pause and like if we say, I don't know how to trust, I can't trust. Trust is not mine. Well, yes, it is. It's like you said, it's always been there. It's just it's a quieting down of the ego mind enough to part through the stories and the events or perceptions and move into that, reach into that beautiful part.
Right. Well, it's like, I don't know. It's kind of like being in a car, driving down the road and stopping, and you're at the side of a fence and you're saying, geez, I wish I knew where I could find trust. And the thing is, there's that fence that's blocking it. You don't know it. But the moment you look and you see the fence and you say, geez, I wonder what's on the other side of this fence. And when I say fence, I mean, I guess people might imagine that it's a fence you can see through. I was thinking more of a physical barrier. You may not be able to see through it. But there it is. It's right there. It's been there all along. You drive by this fence every day. Never once did you ask, what's on the other side of that fence? Well, that's how we run our lives, right? So one day you stop and you look at the fence and say, geez, I wonder what's on the other side of this thing. And maybe you climb up and you take a peek over top. And you see just a whole field full of trust. And you say, oh, that's what trust looks like. Wow. Maybe I can get me some of that.
I want that. Gee, that's way better than living in scarcity or illusion. Just trusting in the unfolding.
Yeah, I love little weird metaphors like that. They're so simple and yet they say so much, really. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Gosh, all kinds of wisdom to take in today.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for being here, Nancy. I always love our conversations. We cover so much ground. I really, really appreciate it. Before I close us out here today, do you want to share any final words of wisdom and trust for the people?
Goodness, well, we've unpacked so much. if you start to notice an inkling that you're always running up into the same story, that you feel that you can never get ahead, it's always, poor me, why me, not fair, this always happens. That is your tap. Just start being curious. What's behind that story? What is it? How is it serving me? What am I receiving from that? Just curiously ask with compassion all the things, and just start to notice if you constantly have that same tagline. It's not fair. This always happens. I knew it. I never win. I always get the da-da-da. Okay, that's great. But ask yourself, what is this? What am I receiving from this? What is it providing me? How is it helping me? Sit in stillness. Let the wisdom flow up that, oh, maybe this is a well-worn habit pattern that once served you, but really none of this is true. So then that's where that trust starts to bubble up. And that's when it gives you the ability then to have more clarity and more certainty around what appears to be uncertain. Just listening and pausing at the intersection by noticing if you're on that repeating loop of ego, illusion, and story, because there's always so much more, bigger, deeper, truer truth that is yours. That's always been there, your wisdom.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Nancy. That was very inspiring. I love listening to that. And so thank you all, folks, for being here today and for watching this program. Please, if you like this, just click on that like button on the link below. Subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you get notified for when new videos drop. I want to thank you for being here. I want to wish you love, light, and blessings on your continuing journey. And before we go, I would just like to share with you my life mastery mantra. Once again, this is the way I end all my shows. And it's just 3 sentences that are easy to remember and something that you can just embrace for yourself to help you step more fully into the truth of who you are. It goes like this, real simple. I gratefully forgive the imperfect being I have been in the past. I gratefully accept the magnificent being I am right now. I gratefully welcome the evolved being I am becoming in each new moment. So thank you, friends, for being here. Thank you for watching the recording. Once again, I'll see you next time on MagnifEssence in Motion. So blessings on your journey. Bye-bye for now.
Goodbye.